The sun shines, birds fly, thin tails are better than thick tails, and Frostleaf is garbage. So why then did I spend 30 days of my life just to tell you what you already knew? Well, it's because I have a fascination with bad things. Frostleaf, wonderful. Granny, exquisite. Extremely crack ships, sign me up. If forcing horses into everything has taught me anything, it's that bad operators are really not as bad as you think. It made me wonder not which operators are bad, but why are they bad? And this is where our journey begins, with Frostleaf, now with 75% less frost because she has to share the naming rights. So please welcome the chillest Volpo at Rhodes Island, Frostleaf. Frostleaf is a 4-star Lord Guard that specializes in doing jack shit. The game tells you that her rolls are slow in DPS, but the only slowing she'll be doing is slowing down your account progression, and the only thing that's damaged is your lungs from all the copium you've been inhaling. As a Lord Guard, she has a ranged attack that deals less damage, but uniquely, Frostleaf's talent Covered Strike gives up some attack speed in exchange for permanently making her balls larger, a joke I'm obliged to make after this comment on my ASCAR video. Her first skill is Frost Tomahawk, the mature and slightly disillusioned older brother of KOB's really cold axe. Her next attack deals extra damage and slows the target. Now looking at this, you might think, wow, it charges in 3 seconds and the slow lasts for 3 seconds, so that means she has a permanent slow on any enemy she's hitting. Congratulations are in order here, just bravo, magnificent. But life is not fair. I won't bore you with the maths, but essentially, Frostleaf's attack interval means that she attacks just before this skill is fully charged, which means that there is a whole second on the end where the skill is charged but has to wait for Frostleaf to finish attacking, and the last time I checked, 4 does not equal 3. Basically, it's a big fat L that the slow can only dream of being as permanent as the damage Tectone does to gacha communities. Her second skill is Ice Tomahawk, which causes her attacks to slow with a chance to bind at great speed. Now there's one big problem with this skill. I'll give you a moment to try and figure out what it is, okay? Ready? Go! Man, is this what it's like to be Dora the Explorer? Like, how long am I meant to just wait here? And stop. I just made you wait 25 seconds, which is exactly how long this skill takes to charge, with a monstrous 50 SP cost and a grand total of 0 initial SP. Regardless, if Frost Tomahawk is F tier, Ice Tomahawk is still F tier, but more to the left. However, to be fair, when it is active, it's not that bad because the slow is permanent and the bind is consistent enough to regularly ruin your auto deploys. Frostleaf's potentials give some reduced cost, redeployment time, and a slight sense of urgency, and I would have made a joke about her trust bonus, but it is the joke.
And my day is ruined.
So why is it that Frostleaf is about as useful as the Stultifera Navus in the Sargonian Desert? Well, public enemy number 1 is that Frostleaf's damage is comparable to Sora, which is to say that she does not have big dig damage. The combination of a talent that actively hurts DPS with no attack up as far as the eye can see, and the fact that both of her skills are damage multipliers means that skedaddle skedoodle, you've deployed a wet noodle. Now usually, DPS is not a huge deal, but rather it's the manner in which that damage is dealt, such as in an area, from extreme range, a spammable skill, multi-target, etc. Frostleaf has none of those things. Even a decent guard such as Irene has the same multiplier as Frostleaf, however with an extra modifier on top that essentially doubles his damage output. But okay, Frostleaf is a bit of a special one that actually cares about the Geneva Conventions. Okay, we get it. But she's a melee unit that can slow from a little bit further away. That has to be useful somewhere, right? Well, I thought so too, and this is how I approached my 30 days, really trying to hone in on what makes Frostleaf uniquely Frostleaf. Pretty quickly, I noticed that the stages where she seemed to have any merit whatsoever had something in common. Undertides, Twilight of Lormonde, and Chapter 6. What do these all share? Well, they all feature a particular type of enemy that really hates itself. Nourished Sea Reapers, Winter Wisp, Blood Magisters, Enraged Possessed Warriors, and Bone Throwers. These enemies are contracted for 9 to 5, and you can be damn sure that they'll be out the door on the dot. I found the most success with Frostleaf against these enemies, as the best strategy is to delay them as much as possible until they either die of cringe or are so weak that even an operator with horrendous damage output can kill them off. Which is oddly relevant. Unfortunately, Undertides is a bit of a different case because the AoE of both the Reapers and the Eggs is still large enough to hit her. However, a stage like 6-4 actually worked pretty well, and the gramophones certainly make up for Frostleaf's pitiful damage output. I also tried to make her work in CC9, but on top of all of the Undertides problems, the first to fuck is here to be first and to fuck, and he's all out of first. The big problem, however, was that in pretty much all of these stages, I really had to suppress my urge to bust out my Glaucus that I had leveled for her cool E2 art, because a slow supporter would not only work in these scenarios, but depressingly would probably deal more damage than Frostleaf purely by virtue of being arts damage. On paper, there are areas where Frostleaf should work, but in practice, none of these factors mean anything because she's just not good enough at any of them, and the intricacies of her kit really hold her back. Yeah, Frostleaf is awful, and you all knew that. There's no reason to ever use her unless you want to, but even then, it would be like me forcing Granny into every strategy. Why would you do that unless you're incredibly down bad? Coping mechanisms aside, there is a single shred of hope left for our dear Frostleaf, her as of yet unreleased module. Considering what I've learnt, I'd consider it a win if it had any of the following. Any sort of extra damage, for example, increased attack or ignore some defense against movement impaired enemies. A talent upgrade like removing or even decreasing the attack interval. My personal pick, expanding her range even further, which while it would ruin all of the dick jokes, would actually be pretty awesome. A completely new ability, such as increasing SP recovery when there are slowed enemies in range, or they could throw a complete curveball and do something incredibly stupid like giving a physical shield to all F-tier operators on deployment. Whatever it is, the basic stat increases will be especially welcome, as long as they're not along the lines of 55 defense. While I'm not a huge fan of numerical buffs, using Frostleaf with Telopsis, or Scadiolta, or in integrated strategies made me realize just how far she can go with a little bit of extra damage, a tiny amount of attack speed, or just some spare SP. Frostleaf is a bee's dick away from being usable. I learned that 30 days really isn't that long, but it was long enough for me to realize that Frostleaf, and probably many other bad operators, really do not have to be bad. Just a little tweak here and there can go a long way. The module system promised us so much, and it has fallen flat so many times. But I am still holding out hope. I used Frostleaf for 30 days, and coming out of it, there's one thing that will stick with me forever. I may never use her again. I may trash talk her all the time, and use her as a scapegoat in my jokes. But hey, I regularly use her in the factory now for XP production, so who's really winning here, huh?